Loopt u? Hi, and welcome at today's talk, You've Got the Power, How to Increase Your Self-Confidence. We're here today at the Student Hotel. Thanks to Student Hotel for making this possible. And today, the OpenUp psychologists Gijs Koppens and Meerte Verkuilen will tell you more about self-confidence, what's the role of self-confidence in our daily life, how does it influence our mental health, how does it influence our work productivity, for example, all kinds of questions that will pass by today. Before we start, this webinar is brought to you by OpenUp in a collaboration with the Student Hotel. The Student Hotel joined us on our mission to make mental health accessible for all, which means that they now also make mental health accessible for all their students, employees, and partners. So we are very happy with that. OpenUp you can use for everyday mental health challenges. You can talk one-on-one with one of our psychologists via a video, chat, or phone, but you can also watch webinars and talks like these. Today we focus on the topic self-confidence. Gijs Koppens, founder and healthcare psychologist of OpenUp, will start off, followed by Meerte Verkuilen, also healthcare psychologist at OpenUp. At the end, we will have a live Q&A, which will be joined by Irene Bakker, one of our other psychologists. So feel free to ask any questions. Also here live in the audience, you can ask any questions that you have, and we will come back to you afterwards. I hope you're all excited, because I am, and we're gonna start with Gijs. Good luck.
Thank you, Jesper, for the introduction. My name is Gijs Koppens. I was trained as a healthcare psychologist in the hospital here in Amsterdam, in the OVG hospital. And I've also been trained as a mechanical engineer from Technical University in Delft. So it's a bit of an awkward combination, but it can also be a very effective combination. We will tell you more about OpenUp, because in OpenUp we use that insights from psychology and the latest technologies to bring mental health to a lot of people. Before I start talking about mental health, I'd like to share 3 insights of my personal life. In front of you, you see a picture of me as a little boy with my twin sister and with my little brother in a sailing boat. And that's because I'd like to emphasize the first insight of today, that mental health is really about social relationships. So it's a construct, also confidence is a construct that we develop in interactions with other people. In the Netherlands, we have a very good healthcare system, but it's often very much focused on the individual level, while we see that mental health is something we do as a group. And it's also something that we as a group are responsible for. And when you're a child, a little boy in my case, the relationship with your parents, the relationship with your brother, sister, with some friends, or a very important figure like the teachers in your life, that's really important in the development of your mental health. So mental health is about social relationships. And then you grow up, you get older. In my case, you become 14, 15, you get into puberty. It's a phase in which you can feel very uncertain about yourself, maybe also about life. And I recognize that. That was a phase for me when I did not know what to do in terms of school. I did not know what to do in terms of sports. I was really searching. I did a lot of sports in that phase. In terms of relationship, I was really searching, and that uncertainty kind of struck me in that period, and I had one way of coping, and that way of coping was to think, well, when I'm 30 years old, I will really be certain. So I thought, okay, now I'm 14, 15, but give me another 15 years and I will have everything in place. I will have a nice girlfriend, I will have a nice house, I will have a career, I graduated in something, I don't know what yet, but then I will really feel certain. And maybe that's the second insight I'd like to share. I'm now almost 40 years old, I'm 39, and I'm still very uncertain. So I do my best every day in the things that we develop. I do my best in my relationship. I do have 2 children, I'm very happy with them. But everything went different when compared to what I thought on that age of 14, 15. So I think, and that's the third insight, that when it comes to mental health, it's a lot about dealing with uncertainty, dealing with not knowing. We all do our best, and we all try to make some sort of a best guess on how things will evolve. But I think the honest answer is we don't know. And also as healthcare psychologists, there's a lot we don't know. So I think for today, we will share you with the things we think we know, but we will not, we cannot really make you maybe more certain or more confident. But I do believe that we can help each other in dealing with that uncertainty and with dealing with yourself. So mental health is also a lot about dealing with yourself and the feelings you have. So that's the introduction. And then mental health is such a broad theme. What is mental health? Mental health, in a way, it's already strange, you know, that we have physical health and mental health because it's all connected. So, but what we divide on OpenUp is that we see 8 important themes in the lives of people. We see sleep, it's very important. We see self-confidence, we will talk about it today. We will see work performance, doing nice things at work, liking the work that you do. You cannot always like your work, but at least the balance should be that if you look back on what you've done previous months or previous 3 months, I hope that there's some sort of a feeling of satisfaction with the work you do. It's important for us. Relationships and diversity, we all differ from each other. Finding purpose in life. So having an idea that life is meaningful. You know, it's a big subject as well, so I won't dive into that one, but at least the idea that you find your purpose or that you do your best to find your purpose. Lifestyle is important. It's about drinking, about food. It's about doing sports. I saw some people looking at the alcoholic drinks that we serve, but that's also part of lifestyle, you know. It doesn't mean you need to be completely healthy all the time. It also means that you can enjoy a good glass of wine. It also can mean that you can enjoy the patat friet here in the Netherlands. Then we talk about mindfulness as one of the themes in mental health. It's basically a capacity we all have and that we all like. It's concentration, it's being in the flow, it's doing something for a longer period of time, develop ourselves, that's mindfulness. And last but not least, mental health has to do with managing stress and anxiety. Is it an important subject? Yes, we believe it's an important subject. What we see is mental health care is the biggest profession in healthcare in the Netherlands and in the whole Western world. So there are more mental health providers in the Netherlands than we have general practitioners and then we have, for instance, dentists. So it's a really big profession. And we also know that a lot of people suffer in one way or the other from mental health challenges. So approximately 70% of people, if you ask them right now in this corona or just post-corona period, how you're doing, 70% of people report some levels of stress that are higher than, for instance, before COVID. We know that a lot of HR professionals, we talk to a lot of HR professionals, that they kind of worry about the employees. How are they doing? And we have called it the burned out society. I don't know if that's really, you know, we're not burned out, but we do see that 40% of absenteeism, so of illness, is caused by mental health issues. So mental health is, in my opinion, the most important health subject of this area, of how do you say it, era, this period. And then we have a healthcare system, and we're very lucky to have one, and we have a good one. So if you ask Dutch people, if you ask a lot of Western European people, are you satisfied with your healthcare system? They answer, yes, we are satisfied. But then if you look at the numbers, we see a lot of people waiting to get in touch with, for instance, a psychologist. We see a lot of people that don't know where to go to. They have been sent to one psychologist, They don't have a click, or they're not in the right kind of set of symptoms. And then they are referred to another psychologist again. So, you know, we see a lot of people there searching for the right help. And not only in the Netherlands, we see that also in Germany, we see that in Australia, we see that also in the United States. So it's really a big problem of the Western world, you could say, to find the right help if you're in need. So then we have to think of different solutions. I already talked that in this traditional healthcare system, we have individual solutions. So you go to your general practitioner by yourself, you tell your story, you get a referral, you go by yourself often to a psychologist, you do your story, you see if there's a match, and then you get into some sort of a development together. But in OpenUp, we try to broaden it. We try to make it, you know, more acceptable. Talk about it. So we try to induce and start up a dialogue with each other about mental health, so that it gets very easy and normal to talk about it. So we try to get from this individual perspective on mental health, we try to get to a more group perspective, a more social relationship perspective on mental health. And that's what we're doing. We do that in close contact with a lot of companies, international companies often, understanding the challenges that they have. We try to help them out in this field. You can get consultations, but we also do webinars like we do today. You can do check-ins. It's very easy. It's very accessible to a lot of people. And yeah, we really believe that we should kind of think in different ways to make society more mentally resilient than we have done in earlier phases. So it's called OpenUp, also as an invitation to open up yourself. Happy to be here today. Happy that you are here today in the offline world. It's refreshing after such a long period of only online connections. I'd like to give the floor to my colleague Meerte. She's also a healthcare psychologist for OpenUp, and she will tell you more about the theme of today, and that's called self-confidence. Thank you. There you go.
Thank you. Okay, guys. Thank you, Gijs, for this beautiful speech. So now a little bit more about self-confidence. Who drinks alcohol? Who likes sports? Okay, many people, many people. Who likes to party? Who prefers Netflix and chill on a Friday evening? Who has blue eyes? And who has brown eyes? Jane Elliott, a primary school teacher, Ohio, 1968, 4th of April, learned about the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. And she thought, I need to do something with my all-white primary school kids to know, to feel if they understand what it is, racism, and social injustice. So she asked the day after, hey guys, who heard about it? Well, all the kids heard about assassination. And then she asked, but why was he killed? And one boy says, because he was black. But why? Yeah, because he was black. And then she said, but that is no equal brotherhood, is it? The whole class nods, no, not at all. And then she asked, but do you know how it feels? And they have no idea, that all these white children. And then she asked, shall we do an experiment? Do you want to feel how it is? And they're very excited, so they all say, yes, let's do it. And then she says, okay, here's the thing. Today, because I'm having blue eyes, the blue-eyed children are smarter. And the brown-eyed children are less smart. And you see in the class a little bit, the brown-eyed don't agree, but then she convinced them with a pseudo-science story about melatonin and intelligence, and they buy it, and they believe this story. And then she says, and the blue-eyed children are not only smarter, but they have more privileges. So they are allowed to drink from the fountain here, and the brown-eyed should drink from paper cups. And on the playground, the blue-eyed are allowed to play everywhere, and the brown-eyed just on a small space. You're not allowed to interact together. And then they started. And what Jane Elliott said afterwards is that the effect was instant. So the blue-eyed children were performing better. They felt good, they felt confident, and you could see a raise in their scores, while the brown-eyed were performing less good. Instantly. The day after, she said, "Oh, sorry guys, I totally messed up. It's the other way around. It is the brown-eyed children that are more smart and the blue-eyed that are less smart." And then you saw that the balance shifted towards the other side. Well, the third day, they all get together and there was a debriefing, and they were really, happy is not the good word, of course, but it was a rich experience, and it really was an impressive experience. And they really understood now what that social injustice felt like and meant. And Jane Elliott, she still lives. She was born in 1933, so she's old and still young in her spirit and fighting for equal rights. So this was really a groundbreaking experiment, and it's still used today in schools to see if there can be, if positive changes can be made. But this experiment also was a really important lesson for us all, for how we relate to ourselves and our environment, because what we believe about ourselves is what we will become. The blue-eyed believe the first day, "I'm capable," and they start performing likewise. What I show you here is a glass. And everybody has a glass, no matter what color, what size, everybody has a glass. We differ in the way our glass is filled, you could say. And here's water. And water stands for self-confidence. And self-confidence is an attitude towards ourselves, our skills, our abilities. We have some sort of, this is about self-trust, accepting yourself. It's about knowing yourself, your vulnerabilities, your weaknesses, your talents. And it's about being able to set boundaries. And it's about being able to let criticism for what it is. And you can hear it, but you won't be blown away by criticism. And let's see. So here we have a glass with confidence. But what you also see is emptiness here. And this emptiness is about our anxieties, our uncertainties, our guilt, our shame, all these parts in ourselves we like to reject, we don't like. And everybody has water and emptiness. But we differ in the amount. So this is somebody with good self-confidence. And here we have somebody with less self-confidence. And what you can imagine is that this glass feels less stable. This one this one is filled properly, good, and this one feels less stable. And what you see in this emptiness from the person 2, we might say, is that there is a lot of dependency on the environment. And Gijs already told about it, the confidence has something to do with our environment. And this emptiness, this person feels that it wants to feel more stable, and he needs the environment to fill this glass. So when the manager says, "Hey, Joe, well done today," Joe feels a little bit better. And when maybe a colleague says, "Well, you look really nice today," Joe feels a bit better as well. But when the manager doesn't say anything, or that colleague is a bit moody to Joe, Joe loses again some self-confidence. And you can imagine that that process of being very dependent on what on the opinion of the environment is quite intense and tiresome. And what I said, so everybody has uncertainty, even Gijs has uncertainty, so it's not that we can go without uncertainty through life. When you have an opening night, a guitar performance, a first date, you have an interview for a new job, of course you will feel uncertain, but it's about who has the loudest voice. Is that your self-confidence telling you you are okay and a little bit uncertain now, or is the loudest voice the emptiness, your inner critic telling you constantly you will fail, you can't do, not good enough? That's what it's all about. But how do we create self-confidence? Where does it come from? When I ask you these questions, you maybe felt something like, what should I like alcohol? Should I drink alcohol? Should I like sports? Should I like Netflix? You were aware of what the of your environment, and you were aware of that, yeah, there is this opinion maybe, and you felt something that has something to do with feeling yourself. The baby, when it's born, is born with an empty glass. And the baby is completely without boundaries, without any knowledge of itself. You could say without any self-confidence as well. And the baby is completely dependent on what the environment will bring him or her. And when we grow up in life, we have two main self-confidence influencers, you could say. Culture and your upbringing. And of course, temperament has a play as well, but we focus today on the culture and the upbringing. And the upbringing that leads to this glass, the glass with a lot of self-confidence, is the upbringing in which you get boundaries, of course, but you also get the feeling, I'm okay, who I am, I can trust other people, they are there for me, and the love is unconditional. And when you have an other kind of environment in which the environment is more unpredictable, or the standard is quite high, you have to perform constantly, otherwise you will not be approved, or when you are being bullied, all these negative influences you can have as a kid, then you are more prone to develop the person two kind of situation in which you have little or less self-confidence. And it's all about who has the loudest voice. And it's about what we saw with these children, what you believe about yourself is what you will become. And the blue-eyed children on their day of preference believed their thoughts were, I'm capable. And what you saw is they felt good, and what you saw is that their behavior, their performance also was good. But we also can get in this negative triangle of self-confidence. Let's say I want to become a manager, but my inner voice is telling me, you can't do that, you will fail, you're not capable of becoming a manager. Then my feelings will be negative, a bit tense, maybe a bit anxious. And then my behavior will be, when there is an offer for becoming a manager, is ain't gonna do it, because I can't. And then I confirm my negative belief, my inner voice, which is telling me I am not capable. And then you're stuck in the negative triangle of self-confidence. Now, what did we talk today about? So we have self-confidence, the baby goes with the empty glass, and then with all the experiences, our glass is filled in more or less ways. And then we know what we believe about ourselves is what we will become, and that the loudest voice is the one, yeah, is who we will believe because he is the loudest one. And is it the positive one or is it the negative one? But you can think now, that's quite a, yeah, dismotivating message here, because hey, I'm having this glass with just a bottom of water. Is that it? Well, the answer is no, that's not it, because you can learn how to fill up your glass yourself a bit more. And maybe it's also good to know that many, many, many people are dealing with this situation, with not that much of self-confidence. So, like Gijs already said, we're not alone, and it's really important to open up and to share your insecurities. And I want to do one exercise with you today to get some sense, some feeling of what you can do with your inner dialogue to make that a little bit more positive. So if you like, you can close your eyes. And then you feel your breath and you feel yourself sitting and just enjoy this moment of being here. And then imagine that you are sitting at home on the couch and the doorbell rings and who comes in? A very good friend of you. And this person, she is really, really sad. So you ask her to join you to sit on the couch next to you. And what's the situation? She had this job interview last week. And today she heard she was not the one. And she is, well, let's say, devastated. Now feel inside yourself. What do you say to her? What's the tone of voice you use toward her? What do you feel in your body? And what do you say? Just take a moment to experience what is happening. Very well. Now, she feels comfort again, so you say goodbye to her, and now imagine that it was not her who didn't get the job, but you yourself. So you had an interview last week, and you heard today that you were not the one. How do you react on yourself, towards yourself? Feel. Feel in your body what you do. Listen in your inner dialogue. What do you say? And try to feel or listen to the tone of voice you use. Is there anybody you can open your eyes again? Is there anybody who wants to say something about this exercise? I can, yeah? I think I was nicer to my friend. You were nicer to your friend, yeah. Yeah, way more comforting than yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? You're not going to tell your friend, yeah, you're stupid, I knew already before, you're a failure. That's not what you do, but we have the tendency, isn't it, to do that towards ourselves. Well, and that's self-confidence in a nutshell, what you just experienced, we could say, because so you felt that the emptiness, that inner critic was the active one. And when you do that, when you are negative towards yourself, like the children in the blue-eyed, brown-eyed experiment, you will feel and behave like that. And there was a very interesting experiment I want to share with you. It's written in the book from Daniel Kahneman. He wrote it in 2011, Thinking Fast and Slow. And this experiment was about, there were students, they were in one classroom, and they had to walk to another classroom after they did an exercise. And this exercise was, they were presented some words, just random words, and they had to make sentences out of these words. And the group was divided in two. The first group was offered neutral words, and the second group were offered words that had to do with old age, like wrinkles, gray, tired, sleepy, these kind of things. And what you saw, that the first group with the neutral words walked faster, significantly faster to the other room than the group who was working with the old age words. They were slower. So that has nothing to do with confidence or something, but you just see in this simple experiment that the words that are buzzing in your head are influencing how you feel and how you behave. And that is something you can work on. You can become conscious of your inner dialogue, and you can become conscious of the voice, who is the most loudest. So from now on, when you have this inner dialogue, you think about today, like you, and then you think, was I nice to myself? Or can it be nicer? And with these little baby steps, you can fill your own glass day by day, bit by bit, instead of staying dependent for validation of the environment, of other people. And one last thing, dare to fail, because we all fail and things turn out differently than we hoped. And if you want to prevent yourself from failing, you avoid many things in life, and that's a shame. So accept that life also is about failing, and there is this nice quote from the actor Denzel Washington: you will fail at some point in your life. Accept it, you will lose, you will embarrass yourself, you will suck at something. There's no doubt about it. Embrace it because it's inevitable. And I would like to add, and be kind towards all these things that you will feel. Be kind to yourself. That's it for today, guys.
We're not done yet, because we're gonna have a Q&A with Meerte, and also welcome Irene.
Thanks.
Irene is also a healthcare psychologist at OpenUp, and also is very much involved with these talks and webinars. Maybe you have seen her in a previous webinar. And I'm 100% sure that not only me, but also the people here have more questions for you. And I would like to start with something myself. You showed us the circle where thoughts, feelings, and behavior all are related to each other. And you also explained to us that breaking the negative spiral is very important if you are in a negative spiral. And you can do so by being kinder for yourself. Maybe you, Meerte, or also Irene, can share a few examples with us on how we can actually do that. So,
we can.
Where do I start?
Yeah, good question. Right.
You start?
I start. Well, first of all, I think it's a lot about acknowledging that we all have this. So we all have this negative inner speech. Of course, you explained the one more than the other. So it's also about not starting to beat yourself up about beating yourself up, because otherwise you get into this more negative spiral of, oh no, now I'm talking negative to myself. I should stop being negative about myself, right? So it's about acknowledging it at first and accepting that it's just something we humans do. Then another thing is that you can start laughing a bit more about your inner critic. So sometimes we say, make a picture about it. How does she look? How does he look? Is it a cartoon? Is it a person? Is it Cruella de Vil? I have a small Cruella, I think, inside of me. What kind of name can you give to him or her? And when you notice it, it helps to sort of get out of the loop. So we don't have to become positive and only talk to ourselves in the best way possible, because otherwise we will be busy our whole day, I think, with sort of reframing everything we're saying. So it's about having a kind attitude towards what you're noticing. Thank Cruella or whoever he or she is in your mind, and letting it go. And by doing that, you create a little bit of distance. It's called diffusion. So it's about taking a step back from what you hear inside of your head and getting a different attitude towards it. So you have a little bit more distance and it won't hurt you so much. So that is one of the things you can try, and it's about practice. So it's not something you will feel comfortable with in a day, but it's about constantly doing it.
Is there an exercise you want to add, Meerte?
This exercise is from the therapy form ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. And when you do the diffusion exercise Irene just told you, explained, you're really doing a good job already by taking a distance and see that this negative voice is there. Yeah.
Great. Is there somebody here that has a question for Irene or?
The talk has been all about how you deal with yourself. How does it relate to other people? Let's say somebody disappoints you and how that affects your own self-confidence. Let's say you expect something from somebody and they don't fulfill. They say they'll call, they don't call. They say they're going to perform something, they don't do it. That can affect your self-confidence as well, I think pretty clearly. But that, I think, is maybe a different dialogue or a different way to deal with it. Because I think that's also perhaps a very big part of why people feel self-confident. You're talking about environment and other people. So those are the other people that say that are reflecting back on you. What are the tricks or the methods or the things that you do? How does that relate to what you just said? That's been discussed.
It's a good question. So I'm just going to repeat it a little bit.
Sure,
It's about what others do might affect your self-confidence, and how do you deal with that in a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
I think it's because we also had some people already sending in questions before, and we also had a question that's, I think, very relatable to that is, I tend to lose my self-confidence because of others. What can I do about that?
Yeah, so you feel then that there's a lot of room for what other people do to you. In this question. How do you relate to the feelings that situation evoke? So when then you can acknowledge this is making me sad or disappointed, and that is okay that I feel disappointed now, instead of I'm a loser, that I feel that this person hurts me. So when you're able to be kind to the feeling you experience, then you will have you keep a good relation with yourself.
And what can also happen, I think, is that what others do, if it's our thoughts about what others do that can influence our self-confidence. So if someone doesn't call or cancels your birthday party or something like that, it's normal, I think, that you experience some uncertainty, that you think, hey, does someone like me, or how is this relationship going? And we're social animals, right? So sometimes losing someone can feel very unsafe, and being unsafe is uncertain. So what our brain then does is want to try and understand what is happening. So it will bring in all these storylines about maybe I did something wrong, I should change, I should call, shouldn't I call, what do they want?
I should be different.
I should be different to keep it safe. And that's the main thing we're here actually for in life, is to, I don't know the word in English, but to get children and to stay safe, right? So those storylines, I think it's best to recognize them, then be kind, and also let them go a little bit more, to not take those so seriously, because often someone himself or herself isn't feeling that good, and that's why they cancel. So it isn't about the person that it's actually about the person that cancels, right? Does that answer it a little bit?
It does. I don't think it goes quite far enough. I don't think it goes quite far enough for what I was asking, and that's more like, I'm thinking about things like betrayal. Not necessarily so much me personally, but I know people who've been betrayed by their partners in a very serious way. And so it would affect their self-confidence people. And so how is it that they should act or react or deal with? Should they then be angry at that person forever and hold a grudge, or should they be able to find a way to like ignore them entirely? It's more practical is the question that I'm trying to ask, and it's about something a bit more poignant, a bit more deep, a bit deeper.
Yeah. I think those are really good questions to ask in a one-on-one consultation, because then we, yeah, sorry, but then we can go.
I thought there might be like a general approach that you're talking about, but it's fine.
Feel the feelings. I think that's the, feel the feelings, let them be there, because those are all normal feelings to feel when someone betrays you. Yeah. And be compassionate.
And when you are betrayed, you are dealing with a lot of pain. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you're basically saying is that then it becomes very specific,
Yeah.
and there's not one clear tip that
No,
you can now
no.
give to
No.
to help that.
Yeah, sorry.
Any other questions?
Hello. The majority of the topics were how to deal with the self-confidence you see in yourself, like your problems of self-confidence. What do you have a tip or suggestion or something when you see like a third party struggling with it, like a friend of yours? If you're not the one, everybody struggles with it a bit. But if you see like a friend of yours is struggling a lot about it, like or a family member or anyone else you care about, coworker, you have a tip about it, because if someone can't like get out of this vicious circle himself,
Yeah.
like how to help him do it, him or her do it, like in a good way that won't pressure him, but will help him get out of it if he can't himself.
Make contact with him. So this person is dealing with, we call that negative emotions and anxiety. And the tendency many people have when we are anxious or sad, we move away from other people, and we will solve that privately in our own, but that's not the best way to do. These feelings will be comforted when it's in contact. So when you see somebody struggling and you tell him, hey, I see that you are having difficulties, hey, you feel anxious or you have lack of self-confidence, let's talk about it. I think that's a tremendous help already for this person in your environment.
To start a conversation with somebody like that, is it that simple? Do you have other tips to go about starting a conversation like that? Because I can imagine that it might be tough for someone to open the conversation with a friend. You don't know how he or she is going to react, which might also, again, have something to do with self-confidence. But
Yeah. Well, I think that you're already posing this question shows that you care. Sometimes it can help to just start a general conversation that you, for instance, you were here, you enjoyed it, and what you noticed yourself or what you recognize, for instance, to sort of bring the topic to self-confidence. And what we often see is that when one opens up, the other feels safer to open up as well. So that might help as well. And you don't have to dive that deep again or at the first talk. But when you tell something and you share something about yourself, another one will share it more as well. Then the most difficult thing with helping someone is that someone, of course, needs to be wanted to be helped, right? So that can be very powerless when you're on the sideline and you see someone struggling. Someone has to want to talk about it as well. But sometimes it's enough to know that you are there. Yeah.
great. Other people, though, would like to ask Irene and Meerte something. Oh, there we go. You have the... Go ahead.
Yeah.
You mentioned before about upbringing and can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was upbringing that makes the glass full and the society, so the culture. So I'm thinking, I think there are a lot of people who basically grew up in an environment that nor the culture or the upbringing had any kind of boundaries. Like, I think there are entire continents that basically it's none at all like part of the culture to set boundaries with anyone. Like, I think it's very hard to learn how to be confident within an environment like this. And I'm thinking, is it like ever possible to completely like snap out of it? Because in the end, a family and a culture that somebody grows up in is one of the things that creates most of our personality. And I think it's probably the most difficult thing to literally get rid of your shoulders in a way. So I'm just curious about your thoughts.
If you can ever change, you're sort of asking.
Yes.
Yes. Well, we're going to say yes, because otherwise we wouldn't have a job. So I think I wouldn't sell my job if I were saying no. No, of course. Our brain is plastic, or has plasticity, so it can change. And you can definitely fill up the cup. But of course, the end result has something to do with where you started. So that will, yeah, if you're born 1.60 meters, you will never maybe become the best basketball player in the world. But you can have a lot of other good things that you're really good in and talented at. And I think that has the same with this. So if you grew up in a very chaotic environment and you have problems with your self-confidence and safety, you can still fill up your glass by doing things that you enjoy, that where you are able to set your boundaries, or find people that help you fill your own cup to feel good about yourself. And maybe sometimes it will wobble a bit more, but then you have a strong enough glass to hold it, and that will give you confidence again as well. So you can absolutely work through it.
Life offers many chances. Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe you've noticed or you've worked with people who moved from other countries to the Netherlands, because I think that, well, what I've felt is that many more people are confident just in what they're doing. They enjoy their life more and focus on their happiness. And maybe you've noticed how when people move, like the culture actually really helps them a lot to feel better, to feel more confident. Have you noticed this in your practice? That moving to the Netherlands, maybe you've worked with some expats.
That moving to
the Netherlands helped
is helping to become more confident.
Have you noticed that correlation?
Oh, that's interesting. That's nice research material.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I've noticed that when my sister moved, because, I don't know, apparently for us, culture was more important than upbringing, because, I don't know, I've always felt more confident, but she actually noticed that when she moved here, she was like, seeing other people happy and enjoying their life helped me to understand that it's important to focus on those things. So, yeah, maybe you have you have some, okay, whatever. Just express my thoughts.
I think it's a beautiful observation. Yeah.
I mean, and I think it comes down to what you've explained, Meerte, with the glass. What has an effect on it? One of the things is environment.
Yeah, and where your glass, I think it's also about where do you feel at home. And that's nature nurture, so how is your temperament, what kind of person are you, and what suits you as well. And if something suits you and you feel at home there, again, you feel more safe, and that is good for your self-confidence as well. So I think it's very good to, I think it's a very possible thing that it can happen. But it can probably also be the other way around. If you move somewhere and you don't like it, that you wobble a bit more.
I noticed that a lot of the questions that came in previous to this talk, and some of you might have the same questions, are about exercises, quick fixes. And of course, it's not always that easy. But I wanted to challenge you to maybe share one or two more examples of what you can do. It can be something as simple as I need to go on stage, or I need to do a presentation or a job interview. Is there something that I can do? Is putting a mirror in front of me and just telling myself how great I am, is that actually something that works, or are there other things that you can recommend?
Yeah, there is one. For 1 month, every day, write down 5 positive things that happened that day. Maybe the sun was shining, maybe you had a nice conversation with somebody, maybe you did something, there was something interesting at the job. 5 things. In the beginning, you will notice that it's maybe difficult to come up with 5 things, but when you repeat this for 1 month, every day, you start to train your confidence muscle. And because it's all about, it's about attention. When I focus on the negative, I will see the negative. And when I train myself to focus more on what's positive, because positive is there. It's day and night, it's both. And when you train to focus on the positive, you will notice after 1 month positive changes.
Can you just ask that? Can you do that? Can you do that all the time, just with anything, at any moment that you have a downtime? What's the most positive thing I can find in the environment that I'm in? Would that work? Not work the same way?
Then it will be avoidance, maybe. Then it might be more of avoidance, that you think, I feel shit and I don't want to feel this way. So, okay, positive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now I'm happy again. You can try it, of course, but I think what we would prefer is that as humans will think, okay, I feel bad right now, and what do I need right now? And maybe you need a shower, maybe you need water or tea, or a friend that hugs you, or you need to call someone, which is more, gives you more self-confidence than at that moment think, I have to be positive again. Because then being positive will become this sort of goal we're chasing. And that's not what it's about. This is more about training your selective attention to go to the things that did go right at the day, or that you did do good, or that were okay, or that were realistic in the day, to boost your self-confidence. Yeah?
I'm not convinced. No.
Okay. I think another one that's really good is your behavior. Because this is all about, more about cognition and what you tell yourself and the voice inside your head. But what is also very important is that you change your behavior. So what we see in the triangle as well is that, for instance, avoidance can happen. If you think, I can't do this, I won't do it. Do it. Count to 3 and do it. Train this muscle of not thinking too much, but just go for it. But also, some people have more the other side, so it's not about avoiding, but it's more about perfectionism. So setting the bar so high, so you sort of think, then I can't fail, but then, of course, it's unreachable, so you will. And try to sort of make these small failings on purpose. So when you're always on time, be late. When you always have it, things finished a week in time, make sure you do it 4 days before. And sort of start training this more and more to notice that nothing really happens. People don't get angry, they still like you. You didn't lose your job. Maybe they think, oh nice, she was late, now I can be late for once. That's good, right? So it's about training yourself in changing your behavior and do it in small bits. So if you have difficulty saying no, then first start saying no in the Albert Heijn when someone asks you, do you want your receipt? And say no. And do it for yourself and think, I said no right now, and be happy about it. You would say to your friend, yes, you did it. Do that to yourself as well. And then build on this. So then go to a step further.
Great. Are there any last questions? No, I don't see any hands here. Then I'm going to pick one of the ones that were sent our way. Let me see. This is an interesting one. How do I appear self-confident when meeting new people?
Posture. Posture helps. It helps. When I'm sitting like this, I will feel less confidence and I will have an upright position. My posture helps to actually feel more confident.
That's actually a
trick.
A third quick win.
Yeah.
Look at your posture.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Meerte. Thank you, Irene. And also thank you, Gijs, for the story. Thank you for being here. We will be around for at least another 15 minutes, so feel free to approach us and ask any questions. Thanks to the Student Hotel, obviously, for arranging the event. And we hope to see you virtually or offline on our next webinars and talks. That's it.
Good.
Great.